Hi guys, it's Katie. I'm going to be doing a mixed media project with you today. So we're going to be using watercolors. I have this little palette here. And we're also going to need to cut out a few items from magazines. You can use just one item, two, or three. I've got three here. And if you're going to use multiple items, I recommend getting things that are different sizes. So I've got this big bagel here, a comfy chair, and this little ceramic cow. Okay, so we're going to basically build a picture around the items that you cut out. When you're looking through a magazine, I would just pick items that pop out to you. So don't think about it too much and don't plan ahead. So I went ahead and cut these three items out, and I already started my drawing. You don't have to draw first, you can go ahead and paint, and you can either glue these down before you start painting and paint around them, or if you're worried about getting them messy and painting over them, then you can wait till the end. I think I'm going to wait till the end and glue them on top. So I did a room, and I've got a table here, a big table with my bagel right in the front. I've got a cozy chair with a lamp in the back. And I have my porcelain cow on a little coffee table with a flower. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And you want to have a couple different brush sizes. For this size paper, I'm not going to use anything too big. I like this size brush, usually. I'm going to start with the table. And I think I'm going to make it a blue table. I like to mix my colors right on the page. So if I was going to make this a purple table, I could use my purple color, or I could add some red in. And I'm just going around all the shapes that I already drew. I don't have to perfectly follow my pencil lines because at the end I'm going to erase them. Your scene doesn't have to be a room. It could be anything you want. It doesn't even have to be a scene. You could just use the items in an abstract way. You could put yourself somewhere in the picture, your family, maybe your pet. I like to use a lot of water when I do watercolor because I like the way it makes the colors run. Now if I want to have a little shadow under this plate, I'm going to add a darker color right here and let it run on the wet paint. So first I'm going to go all the way around. And I think I'll do the same thing on the cup of coffee. I went a little bit over there, that's okay, I can just make my table a little bigger. Okay, so now that I've painted this, and while it's still wet, I want to add a little bit of a shadow. So I'm going to take a darker color, and I'm going to go along the bottom edge of the plate. I'm going to just tap it with my brush. And this is called wet on wet painting technique. So since my watercolor page is already wet, it's going to blend really nicely. And instead of making little dots, it's just going to blend and fade together. And you can do wet on wet by wetting your entire paper with water first and then painting. I'm going to move my bagel out of the way for now so I can blend this in. Now I need to go back and finish this area by the coffee cup. Now when something like this happens, where it's a big block of color, if you don't mind that, that's fine. I like to blend it out. Taking some of that water and going back over that line that I just did. Okay. And then I'm going to add another little shadow under here. And my paint has already dried a little bit, so let's see what happens. Oh, and I have a little hair sticking out of my brush. There. Maybe I want a little shadow under the handle. This is viewed from above, and the rest of the picture is viewed from the side. It's not really realistic, but I like it that way. Different perspectives. Makes it look like I'm almost sitting at the table looking down at my breakfast, and then I'm also looking out at the room. Okay, now I'm going to let that dry a bit. Well, maybe I'll do my plate next. I think I'll have a yellow plate. If I want to add little detail to my plate or my tablecloth, I'll do that at the end. First I'm just getting in the shapes. Now I'm being careful. This is the way I paint. Some watercolor painters go right up to the blue, but I like to leave a little tiny white line in between so they don't touch. And it kind of makes a little outline. Instead of a pencil outline, it's just the paper. But that's just my personal preference. So I'm just taking, I'm rubbing my brush in the yellow to pick up a lot of the color onto my brush, and then I'm going to dot it so that there's blotches of color that are really bold here. just to have a little variation. Hopefully you guys can see that. Okay. Now next, I think I should do my floor. I might have to go over the blue table again, but I'll wait for it to dry first. Now what color floor should I do? I think I'll do a purplish floor, a reddish purple. So I'm going to get some of my red here. This is actually, looks like a magenta. And then this is my purple. I can mix it directly on the palette. There we go. Get some water to spread it out. Now where I go under my table, it's probably going to be darker because there's not as much light under there. So I'm just mixing as I go. Being careful not to go into my table. And usually I end up using one brush the whole time. Something like this is really good because it has a point where you can get into the tiny areas. But it's also good for covering big areas. Okay. I'm going to pull some of this color up here. I don't know that I've ever been in a house with a purple floor, but I like it. Now see there, I got a little too much blue and not enough red, so I'm going to just go in again while it's still wet and blend it. I'm going to turn my page so I can get on this side. I'm being careful not to touch my plate with my hand. And again, I'm keeping this little white line in between the table and the floor. Go down the side. Okay. Now I'm going to have to move my comfy chair out of the way. I'll put it over here. And once my painting is dry, then I'll go back and glue my items in from my magazine. almost done. Watercolor can be very tedious if you're being careful. It can be fun to do messy style too with watercolor. Okay. So there's my floor, my table, and my plate. They're done. So I'm going to keep going like this, filling up my page, and then I'm going to come back and show you guys what I do when I glue on, and then add in detail with colored pencils, or you can use crayons. So I'm going to come back. Okay guys, so I went ahead and filled up my whole page with paint. I made a little rainbow rug here, I did my potted flower. Everything is filled with watercolor. Now I'm going to glue in my items, and then I'm going to use colored pencils to add in detail. I could do this even before if I wanted to glue on top. So like, I could take my purple pencil and say I wanted to make this floor a tiled floor. So I could just add some lines here. And I could do this with any color. It doesn't have to be purple. That's just what I'm going to use. I'm putting them at a little bit of a slant. Okay. And then I'm going to go across to give it that checkered look. And I just follow it across the rug to the other side. So now is the part where we really add detail. I'm going to take some green and do some detail on my lamp. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of yellow down here. I can erase my pencil marks now. They should come off underneath the watercolor. And then I'm going to add a little bit of yellow here, like the light on the lamp is on. Oh, I don't know how that happened. Got a little green. Maybe I can extend my flower here. If you can see here, I messed up. I got a little bit of green pencil. So I'm just going to make another leaf come out. Oh, need a little more green. There. Now it doesn't look like we messed up at all. Okay. What else should I do? I'm going to do a little bit of a shadow line under my rug where my white line is. And on the edges of my table here to define them. Make a little shadow under my pot. Okay, and I could even add, maybe I want to add some stripes to the pot. So I'll go with a different color. This room is very colorful. Okay. And when my plant dries, that was the last thing I painted, so I'm going to wait a little bit on that. When that dries, then I can go over with that one. So now I can kind of start laying stuff in and seeing if I like how it looks or if I want to add more. I could maybe add a design on the wall, make it like a wallpaper. I think I will add a little line here across. Just makes it look a little more finished. And the more layers we add, the more fun I feel like it is. Just keep adding detail. So I'm going to do the outline of my plate now. I'm going to see how it looks with yellow because it's darker. It'll make it pop. And I'm going to do a little outline as if the plate has a ridge around the edge. Hopefully you guys can see that. And you can see I'm not being super careful here. I'm kind of being rough and messy with this step. Okay. And I got a little brown on the paper earlier, so I'll just glue the bagel there when I glue it down. I think that looks nice. And now for my coffee cup, we're really kind of just outlining edges here. If you don't have watercolors at home, you can use any type of paint really. If you don't have paint, you can even just do the entire picture with markers, colored pencils, or crayons, anything you have. And you can use newspaper clippings instead of magazines, whatever you can find. Old photographs. Maybe you have an old picture of yourself that you want to put in your picture. I think that would be really fun. And now some brown for the coffee. Do a little bit here. Okay. Let's see. And I'm going to do the edge of my table. For the table, I think I'm going to do a little bit of almost scribbling over the entire thing. And then my shadow is down here, so I'm going to go to press down harder on the pencil. Okay. Yeah, I like how that looks. I'm going to add a little more detail on my table here. Just making the edge. And then I think my plant is now dry enough for me to work on. So back with the green. Oh, that's not dark enough. I have a darker green here. Just adding little stems and shadows. Okay, and then a little bit of detail on my flower. Okay. Okay, so now that I've got most of my detail, I could keep going and going until I felt like it was ready. But I'm going to leave it as it is right now. Like I might do this. I could even color in every other tile to make it look like it is tiled. So make every other one a little bit darker. I'll do that really quick. I like adding a lot of patterns into my artwork. Okay, I like how that looks. Alright, so now I'm going to take a little bit of glue. You can use just a glue stick or go ahead and squeeze the glue directly onto your page, but I like to use a brush. And I'm going to just cover the back of my magazine cuttings all the way to the edges. You might want to do this on a scrap piece of paper so you don't get glue on your painting, and then I'm going to glue it down. Perfect. Okay. And you do want to make sure your page is nice and dry before you do this. So next is my chair. You get a nice even layer on there up to the edges. There we go. The legs are really skinny, so that's a little bit tricky. Just take your time. Okay. And now my chair. Where should it go? Right there, I think. Okay. Now I have my cozy reading chair in place. Perfect. Next is my last piece, my little porcelain cow. Cows are my favorite animal, that's why I cut this one out. Okay. Now I have my little statue on the table. Okay. So we're done. Here, let me show you guys. And it's done.